Hi, and welcome to this episode. It's part of the InfoSec Philosophy and Theory series within the podcast. I'll be reading an article from my publication on Medium, and I'll be presenting maps that refer to the article's contents and its structure. So, I'm excited about this because this is the first stage in the protocol sequence that I'll be referring to in the future. It's almost like the first step. That's the simplest one and hopefully the easiest one to understand. So I've called the article, and I'll load it up here. The article is called Human Being Quadrants as Collaborative Social Engineers. Okay. So there it is, and how about I show the map as I usually do? Let me just bring about the map here. Okay, here's the map of the structure of the article. So at the top here, again, we're seeing that it's related to and relevant to the secret and the business layers of security operations. We're going to dive into definitions at the top. Especially the states of, the being states rather, from on one side cognitive to emotional on the other side, and the differences between their deliberate versions and spontaneous versions. And this will be in a quadrant on a diagram. Here's the diagram, by the way, but that's for a moment later. Under this, we have mutual fine-tuning through attention and energetics resonance fields. And then the professional aspect of this is the balance, finding the way through this in order to communicate. A heading here in the article is Future of InfoSec. This is where Bitcoin kind of comes to play, but it's more about how the being state and your culture in life, or the cultures, as described in other articles and episodes, and then your mental model and the mental models of the dimensions and the points in the dimensions that you have. These somewhat dictate at some point the security layers one is able to specialize in, and this is where we work with reconnaissance. So this whole aspect perhaps called multidimensionality. So back to the article now, and let's get started. The being states. As part of a deeper InfoSec inquiry, this is a brief article for those who care and have a need to know about a selection of fundamental states in which human beings commonly exist. This is in order to be able to exchange valuable information more effectively and efficiently in the cybersecurity workplace. Okay, so we have 1, cognitive deliberate, 2, cognitive spontaneous, 3, emotional deliberate, and 4, emotional spontaneous. Some people tend to remain in one state. Some people move between states in confusion and at random. A more developed person transitions between states with respect to themselves and life around them. They correspond and reciprocate with their environment. Hence, they might be called stateless. We are reviewing these states from the point of view of a cybersecurity professional, in my case, as a web application security tester. Most often, such states are observed as basic experiential frameworks of common bodily postures at rest. Sitting, standing, lying down, and walking. Any of these postures may be taken during work hours. The lying down might take place during lunch break or after a meal. In all, the 3 main centers of human functioning are accounted for: bodily, emotional, and intellectual. During an exchange, such as a conversation in a physical or virtual environment, at any given moment, it is significant to observe which of these states one is predominantly in. Next, observe which state the other human is in, approximately, carefully. For more clarity in communications, it may be necessary to constantly adjust and fine-tune to the state of the other. If this consciousness communications protocol is in place and both parties are capable of fine-tuning, then it is simply a matter of agreement to remain in a particular state for the function at hand. Mutual agreement of state is important for the maintenance of energetics during collaboration. Such considerations greatly enhance the bandwidth of an exchange of information, which can lead to received knowledge. The states presented here can be placed into a quadrants diagram. Here is the quadrants diagram. So, in the top left corner, or let's say the left side, as I've visually presented it in the diagram, is cognitive. The right side is emotional. Now the top area for the cognitive and emotional is deliberate, and the bottom area for both cognitive and emotional is spontaneous. First, in the cognitive deliberate, for example, in the deepest sense of it, might be security operations, working with secure software development lifecycle for critical infrastructure. Or a lighter version would be simply research. On the emotional deliberate side, for example, it might be the choice to make life easier, or in a simple sense, quiet time alone in a park. For the spontaneous cognitive, an example might be a conversation, or when explaining something in simple terms. On the emotional spontaneous side, at its depth perhaps, enjoying laughter and play with children, and or simply a sense of humor about daily life. I like wearing this mustache. So, let's continue here with the article. I've called this diagram a basic cognitive spontaneous mental model of common human states in quadrants. On a quadrant chart, I mostly maintain a near center middle before engagement. However, in my main work resonates around deliberate cognitive. My best work would sprout from the emotional spontaneous after completing a deliberate cognitive mapping. It's like creating a resonance field for oneself and then enjoying some play within it, with a selected time frame to journey and to remain there on a temporary sojourn before reinstating communications at the corresponding quadrant within the organization. This can be a method of attuning to a natural respect for the current professional state of another person within one's organization, recognizing that they need to be in that state to fulfill their aims for the day. Such an approach could be taken after a consensus on the movement of attention and energy that is acceptable for the mission, team, and leadership within the organization. Personal preference of being states. I work from a balance of the mentioned states based on the function at hand, literally. So I'm able to transition and blend. I also interact accordingly with the atmosphere in the most basic ways possible in order to tune into the functions. For example, in order to work at my best within my specialization, I may choose to receive the right corresponding impressions, air, and nutrients based on the energy that is necessary for the functions. Cognitive deliberate. This, my published writing, it is my own copy editing and technical wizardry within my specialization layer. As I say it, pressing enter. Cognitive spontaneous. This is how I write drafts and is what I value for problem solving and reason for making mental models. It is the process of crystallization, the allowance of formulation. It is attuned learning. Emotional deliberate. Makes life easy, requires time alone. Emotional spontaneous. It's the most vulnerable. It is an open creative state. Unfortunately, in the majority of low-level IT subcultures, it is often discarded as too artistic and without particular value to the field. Meanwhile, this state feels best and healthiest, as it is in a relaxed position of freedom and ease. It can empower cognitive deliberations for the next round. Finding one's culture of attunement. Within one's own culture and subcultures, find a way to maintain the flexibility to be able to tune into each of the quadrants. This can greatly assist in understanding other people from other subcultures which may be of value to you and your organization. As a simple tuning example, if one has the experience to enter certain flavors of the hip-hop dimension, then tune into a selection of heavy, slow-paced rhythms of gangster rap, instrumentals for a glimpse of that adult version of the emotional, spontaneous state, and imagine doing only positive things within that field of energy, a dimension placed over the security operations dimension. Advance your skills by going to an environment where this music is played and the people are deeply attuned. Music works great for this. Apply this to any kind of music based on your sense of the local culture. The sound of an atmosphere often resonates within, so you can then return to work ready to communicate accordingly and deliver. In the next article, there will be more about the varying cultures that create mental models connecting human states to multidimensionality in order to better understand security layers. I believe that maps of such mental models are a significant part of my strengths in the entire field of engagement of an offensive web application security tester, from threat modeling to red teaming. I'm just going to show the map again here. The map for this particular article with the quadrants. Such mappings allow for a sequence to emerge between states, thus becoming stateless. For example, the cognitive deliberate in this quadrant may bring about a cognitive spontaneous, so that the emotional deliberate, choosing to feel at best alignment, can induce the emotional spontaneous, a most sensitive human system functioning. This in turn can refuel the cognitive deliberate. Oh, that makes an infinity pattern there. This is important because in my 25 years of experience as an adult, I can see that the field of cybersecurity is dominated by cognitive deliberate quadrant, which is trying to secure its own dimension, while most of the solutions and frontier data can be found through the other quadrants. Right, well, so as a silly example of something that happens when you map and interact physically with a map even, or this can be done in virtual space as well, as I've done it, is notice how I just explained something that went in a visual pattern like this, and then I said that it forms an infinity pattern, right? So I just came across that just by explaining these and by following my, like the movement of my attention from this area to this quadrant, to the quadrant of emotional spontaneous, which got me enjoying this, that I just started doing this little thingy of a loop, right? Which is spontaneous and emotional because I'm enjoying and I'm having a sense of humor, wearing a mustache doing this. And it got me back to the cognitive deliberate. This is a beautiful example of this. Which is, hey everybody, I'm going to use words now to explain what just happened so that you see the benefit of using a map. Now, was this important in anything? No, but let's say I'm the only person on the planet and I need a logo. Well, I might use this pattern of an infinity symbol as my logo, right? Because it's playful and it plays with the quadrants. If this was like the only knowledge that I had on this planet and I was like, hey, I need a logo for this, I would be like, wait, I like this pattern. Yeah, let's just use that as a logo. Right, and that's that's an explanation of another major company that just used that. Anyways, right. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I enjoyed that. Let me show myself enjoying this. Okay, well, that is the end of this reading. I filed this on Medium as using the hashtags mental models, state of consciousness, cognitive computing, alignment, and InfoSec. And that's it for this article. I hope it gave you some insight into how the human states in quadrants relates to web application security testing, which we'll continue to use in the communicating about points and ideas that we'll be developing. So if you enjoyed this episode and this podcast, you may offer support over NOSTR clients, sending some zaps there, or through the Fountain app on your smartphone or desktop, where you can also send little bits of Bitcoin, even stream them per minute as you listen. That's exciting. It's a new value for value system, and I'm excited to help secure those applications that work with Bitcoin Lightning, for example, and the energy questions in the Bitcoin sphere. It's a whole sphere, yeah. It has its own dimensions. More on that and more on the points, and I'll see you at the meetups.